Welcome back to the Jocker Room. Got the itch for you again this week. And this week it's Vikings news and how fortunate we are to be Vikings fan, how blessed this franchise is.
How
Just can't,
not cursed.
yeah, never been more thankful to not just be a Minnesota sports fan, but a Vikings fan specifically. There's just nothing but good news, nothing but positivity, and the fans have been nothing but supportive and happy about this situation.
Right.
Um, so yeah, let's open up with that. Vikings had their first preseason game. Sam Darnold looked pretty good, but JJ McCarthy looked like I people that watched this, and especially they watched like our preview of the draft where I did a quick like 5 minute thing by myself. I said the one quarterback I didn't want was JJ McCarthy. We got him anyway, and even he looked like he was proving me wrong. JJ McCarthy was looking really good. The interception was a welcome to the NFL moment. You can
Yeah.
make that pass in college, you cannot make that in the NFL.
Right.
But yeah, so he was looking good, and
Yeah. Just really excited for his future going forward,
yeah,
especially this season.
yeah, I thought
Uh,
everybody was. We're at that point. We were pretty sure Sam Darnold was going to start. We talked about in our season preview.
of
JJ
course.
McCarthy at best comes in at like week 11 or whatever, somewhere around there,
Right.
and
Right.
like that would
As
be
long as
best
he's there
case.
for week 13 versus the Falcons, that's what we wanted.
Yeah, and he tore his meniscus, so he will not be here this season. He instead of doing the partial repair where like somebody like Carl Anthony
Cat did.
Towns
Yeah.
did,
Cat
where
did.
they shorten their future by doing that, but making their current just a quick fix. They went with the long term, which of course you would do because he's 21, so he
Right.
would. This is the smart decision. It just sucks because now it's either Sam Darnold or now if Sam Darnold does poorly, you're going back to Jaron Hall again or
Nick Mullins, probably.
Nick
500
Mullins.
yards, 5 touchdowns, 5 interceptions.
Right, Nick
Just
Mullins, just Jameis Winston without the cannon. Um,
just throwing it all over the place.
uh,
Honestly, the best player to ever don the number 12 in NFL history, but
easily.
yeah.
Speaking of
So
that, I've seen a lot of people. Their band-aid solution is asking Tom Brady to come and play for the Vikings. I saw people tweeting at him. Saw people doing edits of it. That's not going to happen.
right.
Tom Brady is not going anywhere at the beginning of the season. If
I
Tom
think
Brady were to come back to the NFL, it's post-trade deadline to a team that is like has lost like one game and
like
their
the
starter comes out.
Chiefs, like if Mahomes goes down,
Right. If
like
Mahomes went down in week 10, then Tom Brady will come in.
right.
Unless
I
it's a
think
situation like that, he's not coming.
the situation is they're probably looking at something like a Ryan Tannehill.
Yep,
Probably.
I think they're running with Sam Darnold and Jaron Hall, and if I saw a lot of people are already saying they will be keeping 3 quarterbacks most likely on the roster. The best free agent quarterbacks available are Tannehill, AJ McCarron, and there was one other guy, but pretty much if it's not Tannehill or AJ McCarron, it's like Brian Hoyer or something.
Right.
Those are the 3 highest paid. Their last time they had a contract, those are the 3 highest paid quarterbacks
Sure.
still available.
Sure.
So in other words, the trash heap is available, and I think if you're bringing in Ryan Tannehill, you might
I
as
think
well.
he's the only logical guy because he's actually had some success. I
Right,
mean,
right.
um,
Not to
but
mention,
that's if Darnold is just Carolina Darnold. Well, Carolina, he was like 3-1 with Carolina before McCaffrey got hurt. So it's like I don't know. He's had some success around the league.
I said when we got Darnold, I said I was excited for it. This is the first time
right.
he's had a good coach for a starting opportunity. It's the first time he's had a good coach, weapons, and a defense and a running game.
Right.
Like if he would have got a chance to start multiple games in San Francisco, I'm gonna guess he would do pretty well.
Right.
I think that's gonna happen here too.
Yeah, and you have someone you had someone last year that was offensive player of the year. In McCaffrey. Well, guess what? We also have an offensive player of the year here. So
right.
Yeah,
and like if you brought in if Darnold does do really poorly and you decide not to go with one of your current backups, a guy like Tannehill succeeds really well in like the 5 and outs and the 5 and ins That's like his
Sure.
bread and butter. So then T.J. Hawkinson and Jordan Addison, those two probably get the increased targets. Which Jordan Addison totally like he's doing just fine too, right?
Yeah, it's not like he's possibly going to be suspended for 3 games.
And he's not hurt either. Like
Right,
he
or
didn't get
sprained
carted
his
off.
ankle. Yeah,
Oh wait,
yeah,
never mind. Jordan Addison did get carted off in practice, and once his legal battles are done, he also might be suspended for multiple games, including into next year, is what people are saying. So that's like I
probably
said,
just three. It's probably just 3 games. I mean, Rashee Rice. If Rashee Rice doesn't get like punishment
I think it's a
for like
repeat offender thing. I think they're gonna. So every time a player gets suspended or fined, it gets appealed through the players union,
right,
and then like a lot of times guys get 10 games, it gets appealed, it gets brought down to 6, or they get 6 games, it gets appealed, it got brought down to 4. I think Jordan Addison's gonna get, because it's his second driving one in particular. They might even take into account with his teammate passing away. I think they're gonna try to suspend him like 6 games, and then I think they're
sure,
going to appeal it, and it'll probably be appealed down to 3 or 4.
yeah,
So I do think they're going to give him the higher one, but I think eventually it'll get appealed to the point where people are expecting that 3 or 4.
sure.
Um,
Yeah, I think the what I saw is like the NFL like base for something like this is like 3 games. So
yeah, exactly. I think that's where it'll end up once it's all said and done.
the team can also add a punishment onto that, but they
I'd add
obviously
one
like
game.
it's yeah
Call it the
it's
Kyrie Jackson game. Like he,
right.
you don't be extra stupid. Like we already know he honestly at this point he should just get Ubers everywhere he goes. Try not to
Right,
drive at all, because he's not gonna make the right choice behind the wheel.
right.
I get so frustrated
I
with
mean
him.
that was that. I mean that like if you obviously like it was he was intoxicated this second one, but the first one was like if it's true he was trying to get like help for his animal. So like
The dog we've never heard about since.
yeah, yeah.
And I mean, I liked the theory that our local radio said. What if he meant like his friend? You know, his
Oh, his
dog.
dog. Yeah. Oh,
No,
maybe.
I think that
Right.
was allegedly. Allegedly, I think he was lying, but whatever. Um, we'll move on to the next thing. So we talked about JJ, we talked about Jordan Addison. Those are kind of the big like things that have been going on, but a lot of other
It's
things
been a
happened
rough
in.
5 days.
Yeah, it's been a
For
pretty rough, off season in general for the Vikings. For the past 5 weeks, people talked about, lost a corner, lost a corner to death, lost 2 corners to injury, lost a
yeah.
wide receiver got a DUI. First top 10 pick ever gets a season-ending injury.
This
So
is the first round quarterback since 1967 to miss an entire season due to injury.
in other
So
words, it's just
we're
a
pretty
Vikings
lucky.
record to have. But you know what? Okay, so we spent a lot of time.
57 years.
We've been bitching. Okay, we deserve a little time to bitch. A lot of people are saying Vikings fans are cursed. You know what? That was our bitching time.
This is normal. We're used to all of it.
This
We
is.
expected
Have you
this.
watched the Minnesota Twins Timberwolves over the past 25 years? There's like a couple glimmers of hope, but that glimmer of hope is just to keep you along to buy tickets, just so they can tear you apart. That's what
Right.
Minnesota sports do. The
Exactly.
Minnesota Lynx are the only team that have done really anything where they've been consistently good, and
Right.
even then their superstar retired early.
Right.
So let's talk about the good stuff that happened in the preseason game and the future of what this team holds for this season. This like 3-win team holds for us.
Right.
Let's talk about Dallas Turner.
Right.
He did pretty good.
Pretty good. Yeah. He got this one play where I think it really his only move right now is like his speed, like his like swim underneath. Uh but it works because he's so freaking quick and fast
Yeah.
and strong at like the point of attack. So like
That'll
he
be
had
something that
one
he can develop over time. That's why
right,
guys like Christian Darrisaw were slaughtering him in practice.
right, right. Yeah, you're gonna try
He
one
can
move
stop one
against
move.
an all pro. Yeah, right. So Yeah, I mean, he did the one move, got past the. He's out there with the starter, so he's going up against the presumed starters of the Raiders, and he got by them, almost hit Aiden O'Connell, and then later on in that like same drive, he did get to him. So or maybe it's the next drive or something like that, or he got Minshew. But yeah, you saw that speed, that crazy athleticism, and then he did get there, which was like, all right, we have something.
Yep.
Like
I
everyone
mean, we
thought
got the best
he is who
defensive
we
player
thought.
in the
Yeah, he is
draft.
who we thought. Right. So yeah, it was good to see. And they have him. Obviously, Van Ginkel was injured. I think Van Ginkel's back now, so now I'm curious to see kind of where Dallas Turner fits into the mix. I think you can do some crazy packages because Grenard and Turner and Van Ginkel and Cashman and Pace they're all kind of can all be out there and do things.
Oh, for sure.
So all those linebackers, Van Ginkel's played middle before as well. So then it's like you have more versatility. So
I know that we
yeah,
tend to run the nickel quite often, but if we ran a hybrid set, we have the right personnel to run multiple sets, which is just going to help
right,
Flores's defensive schemes out even more.
of
Now, if
course,
now we can plan ahead where we go, okay, well this week we're going against the San Francisco 49ers, so we are going to run that hybrid set, but next week we're running against the Lions, so we're actually going to move into that nickel set. Like we have the personnel to move
right.
our guys around and play. So this week we'll see a lot more Dallas Turner. While this week we're going to see a mixture of Turner and Van Ginkel, or this week we're going to see like a nothing but Van Ginkel. I think we're going to see a lot of
Right.
that. Where some games you're going to be like, why is Dallas Turner not playing? It's like, well,
Right.
it's
And
a
then like
matchup,
the third and longs, that's when you'll see him kind of where you
right?
can kind of let him loose
Yep.
and
And then
like
anytime
give
that
him
they feel like the matchup favors Van Ginkel and Cashman and the other guys, they'll find something for Turner.
exactly.
They'll
Right.
put him in special sets.
Right.
The other thing we a couple other guys that did well or poorly, whatever we had. You said you wanted to mention Rouse, the offensive
Yeah,
tackle.
so just I think he was the backup to Darisaw, I think. He's either the backup to Darisaw or backup for O'Neal. I think Quessenberry maybe got the start at left tackle because I don't think Darisaw played in that first one.
No,
But I just wanted to say for Rouse, he did come in to back up O'Neal, but then when the third string went in, he did move to right tackle or left tackle. So he did play both tackle positions um, in the game, and I mean, they talked about how smart he is, but just have that versatility as well is just something that's nice to have. So
yeah,
if there is an injury to one of those guys, I believe Quessenberry can play both sides, and I think Rouse can play both sides, and we actually have Brandell who's played both guards and both tackle positions.
that's
So
just the way. When you want to have a deep offensive line room, you either have a bunch of guys at specific positions, or you have a handful of guys that can play everywhere.
right.
And I think
And
it's you just
Reisner can play both guard spots too. So
yeah.
it's like
Reisner's been the surprise. He's not playing with the starters. He wasn't playing with the backups. He was actually out there as like a third string. So that's at least in
they maybe just wanted
practice.
to see what they got in these other guys too, because they probably know what they have in Dalton.
Yeah.
So
Well, I think it's smart. You got a guy that can back up either side in case anybody who needs Brandell, Rouse. You got plenty of guys that if somebody needs a break, if somebody gets hurt, you have somebody back there. They might not be at their preferred position, but they can at least do it to a
right,
to a bar.
right.
Speaking of bars and speaking of Vikings curses, usually we're wide off. We hit the bar, you know, 27 yards
27
left
yards left
hash.
hash.
Vikings have not had best luck when it comes to kickers. Gary Anderson never missed a kick, and then he missed the one that mattered. Blair Walsh, best
Pro
rookie
Bowl.
record, Pro
Yeah,
Bowl
yep.
kicker, misses a
Right.
27-yard, just complete shanks it.
After scoring all of our points that game.
Yep, Daniel Carlson gets cut after like 4 games, becomes the league's best kicker besides Justin Tucker,
Right.
which is the Vikings.
Yeah, I
That
mean,
was
yeah.
all
At
Zimmer.
at worst, Daniel Carlson's like the third best kicker.
Yep, yep,
Like at worst. Like you could
exactly.
talk me into Butker, but I mean, like,
I would put Carlson above Bucker.
yeah, Butker just he's just great kicker on a great team.
Yep.
But you could talk me into Butker just because.
Um, but I mean, if you didn't have Mike Zimmer, Carlson's still probably on the team. But Mike Zimmer was a terrible coach for kickers in general.
Right,
Kickers don't do well with scream in your face coaches, and
right,
you unless you have like a pros pro like a Gotskowski or a Vinatieri, that they don't deal well with it.
right.
So Zimmer ruined it there, but we might have one now. We got a walk off from our rookie
Yeah,
kicker that everybody said was a reach. Why are you drafting a kicker that high when you got John Parker Romo? Well, you don't draft a kicker that high unless you think highly of him. And I'd rather
honestly,
be set.
John Parker Romo, I believe, was just brought in for how he kicked in the XFL, which is the what they're doing for the kickoffs this time. So I think it was honestly just to pick his brain
Sure.
a little bit in regards to like how to attack this kind of like coverage now.
Yeah, absolutely.
Um, so I think that's why they brought him in. And then as soon as they were like, "All right, thanks,"
Thanks for teaching Will what to do. We're gonna go with Will now.
yeah. So
Yeah, I think that's a good point. I'm sure that's what they were. I mean, as soon as they drafted a kicker as high as they did, I'm sure Romo was like, "All right, start contacting other teams."
right, right, and the fact that Reichard was just hitting 60s like no problem. I
Well, and
saw
it's
him kick a
possible.
56. Saw him hit a 56 in practice, and it was like the top of the. It was like the top of the bars, like
Oh
went
yeah.
through the top. I was like, good lord, he had probably 10, 15 yards on this thing. Like,
I mean, well, there's a will, there's a way.
right,
I mean, they talked about before when they changed the rules of the kickoff. They talked about some teams starting to potentially will teams start having punters do kickoffs? Will teams have two kickers, one to do like place kicking and one to do like onside kicking or like the kickoffs?
sure,
It's possible that they also had both of those with the plans of keeping them both, not realizing that Will could do the kickoffs just fine with the new rules.
sure,
So it is possible Romo was taken with the idea of, well, you're not going to be our place kicker, but you are going to do kickoffs for us, which
sure,
we've seen teams do that in the past. I remember the one I always think of is when the Cowboys had two kickers. They had a place kicker, a kickoff, and a punter, all three doing
sure,
something different. Um, I could have seen that, but I think they made the right choice. Get rid of the salary, open up another position for a team that needs depth.
right.
Um, Now let's move on to something we're both very very familiar with, Jurgens.
Right. Right. Oh yeah, Michael Jurgens had a rough showing, and I'm gonna give him the benefit of the doubt. You know, he's like what sixth round pick, seventh round pick.
Yeah,
Um, so it's gonna take a little bit of time for him to get adjusted, and it was it was his fault. The kick got blocked, like Reichard's field goal got
yeah,
blocked, but also like three guys ran through him, and then the guy directly to Jurgen's left didn't help at all. So, I mean, just being a rookie and trying to hold back three grown men is tough.
right. I struggled with that in
So,
college.
right, and so I don't know. That's probably less his fault than it is the special teams coordinator's fault.
Yeah,
You
yep.
probably should have some better protection in regards to that.
Which is that the center's fault for not setting the correct protection?
Yeah, because there's three dudes that ran through him.
Yeah,
So, but it made him look bad. But there's obviously room to grow. I mean, we need interior help, so like there's always a chance for you to make a spot. But yeah, not probably the like poorest performing draft pick, but obviously I still have high hopes for him. Like
sure.
he's so.
Well, speaking of draft picks with high hopes,
Your boy.
my boy, yeah. After our Vikings draft recap, our discussion about it, and this is the guy I texted my dad about. Well, my dad always likes to ask me like, which guys do you like, all that sort of stuff, just because I'm not gonna mock him for not knowing stuff, and
Sure.
most people in my family know the draft is what I care about. I'm looking forward to the draft already this year. Um, Levi Drake Rodriguez, he he
Infectious personality. Just always happy.
yeah, and
He's just in a good mood. Smile is infectious.
I referenced him as a guy that has worked for everything. Like
Sure.
fans are gonna like him because nothing's ever given. Like there's never gonna be a play he takes off. That's how he is where
Oh,
he
he
is
was
today.
sweating. Like I was like, wow, the jerseys look darker, and I was like, nope, that's just all sweat.
Yep. He
He's
doesn't take a
just
play
sweating.
off. There's not a
Yeah,
second off he takes. I love his work ethic. I love his attitude. He's so
motor.
good. And I think that showed already in just one game. And it's in a position that we're not very deep in. So I think he's a late round draft pick that has a chance to get a lot of play time once the regular
Oh
season
yeah,
comes
I mean
around.
our
And it
our our D tackle D end in general is not great. I mean outside of Harrison Phillips, which is an adequate starter, like he has
right.
good moments too, but like that's it on the D line.
And
Like
then you
that's
got
honestly
Jacqueline
it.
Roy and LDR.
Yeah, yeah. I mean Bullard, okay, like he can hold his guy there, but like he's not going to get that much penetration and stuff. So um, yeah, I mean, it was good to see. Like, it was good to see that a D tackle it might have been a stunt, but also like to force that pressure from that position is something we've lacked.
Yep.
So
And it's also selfishly, it's when I have my own personal like scouting report on somebody to see
and they
them
hit,
and
yeah.
not
It
just
looks
like
like they hit, yeah.
hit, but like every single thing I feel like was just nailed. Like his
Right.
motor showed, his attitude showed, his everything, his talent showed. And I was just like, there, like that's who I'm talking. Like if you told me you rolled out Jacqueline Roy and LDR as our two starters, I feel just as confident as when Harrison Phillips and Bullard are out there.
Sure. Yeah.
And
Yeah,
it
because
just
Jacqueline Roy shows promise in his small times too. So
exactly. I
yeah,
feel very confident in we might be not proven, but we got guys there now, and I feel like it's where you got to start. Is it started in the trenches? They're starting now. That offensive line is getting more solidified every season that KOC's been here, and now in these past two seasons with Flores, that defensive line is solidifying.
yeah, they're starting to get. I mean, outside of like last season, it was just Pace and God, who's the other linebacker we had? The older guy with the buck teeth.
Older linebacker with buck teeth.
Yeah, he had the leg problem, like the leg
Oh,
injury.
Jordan Hicks.
Jordan Hicks. Yeah, outside of Jordan Hicks and Ivan Pace, those were the only linebackers Flores really felt comfortable putting out there
Yeah.
last year. And so now it's like you got Grenard, you got Turner, you got Van Ginkel, you got Cashman, you got Pace. Like you've got these linebackers that he probably is suiting what he wants to do more. So it's like the scheme is more more him. But I mean, like D line, we don't know is a question mark, and then corners is just a mess. So, but their safeties are good,
Yep.
our linebackers are good. So it's like it's better than past season. So I'm excited to see kind of how he molds and forms it to what he does and how this defense looks. So.
I'm just very thankful that the league is turning slightly away from the Belichick tree. The league is turning away from defensive coordinators getting head coaching positions, and the league is turning away from guys that are older. They're trying to go younger.
Yeah, younger offensive minded coaches, a lot of them.
So it's like
Yeah.
all things turning away from Flores, which leaves us with a head coach as our defensive coordinator. And I think I've talked about it a million times. If you can get three head coaches as an OC, DC, and standard head coach, you have such an advantage from a leadership standpoint. And I think right now we're pretty much there. Our wide receiver coach, our defensive coordinator, and our head coach are all way
Right. And
underneath where they could be.
Wes Phillips may not call the plays, but he does do a lot to help KOC like
Right.
get
We
everything
have an
going too.
elite
So
coaching staff.
yeah.
which that's where
Yeah,
you start.
yeah,
The trenches and our coaching staff, we're building the team right. It might not be leading to immediate success, but that's not why you changed out your GM and your head coach. You didn't take it out so you could
right,
win a Super Bowl the next year. You changed that out so that by 2026, 2027, that's when your deep playoff runs are supposed to be. So next year,
right.
I'm hoping for the playoff run with JJ McCarthy, and then the following year and the year after is when we go deep.
Sure.
Um, the next thing we have on our list after talking up some Drake
The draft
Rodriguez,
picks, yeah, the draft picks. Some of the undrafted
yeah,
draft picks, undrafted free agents.
yeah, go ahead.
So I mean, there's kind of three guys on the radar, and there might be some more that like we just haven't seen yet, or the surprise picks. But Dwight McGlothern, I mean, we're so thin at cornerback. This dude's just a big bodied, kind of in your face man guy. Um, and I think he has a good chance of
Yep,
making it, especially with the injuries. To Mikai, and I think Shaq Griffin's a little banged up.
yep,
Byron Murphy's playing out of position
yep.
too. So like
Keep it going, keep going. Who else?
I
What?
mean, I mean that's it. The guy who's probably going to be fourth on our cornerback list ended up passing away this offseason.
Yep, yep,
Stephon Gilmore visited, still hasn't signed.
yep. He left without a deal.
Yeah, so I mean, if Stephon Gilmore signs, at least Byron Murphy is playing in position now. So that's a positive.
Yeah,
Which Stephon Gilmore we're getting, that's a question mark. Which Shaq Griffin we're getting, also a question mark. Yeah, it's just great in the cornerback room right now. And so I think Dwight McGlothern has a chance to at least be a depth piece.
and for those that are maybe a little down on this year, especially with as Joe was just pointing out, just torn apart defensive back group in a room that was already hurting. Um, the Vikings have over $100 million in salary cap opening up next season,
Right. And that's after the JJ signing, the Darisaw signing. Like,
and there
it's
are 5 corners minimum. I was looking just yesterday, the day before.
yeah, you mentioned this. I didn't see who though, so I'm
There
excited to
are at
hear
least
this.
there are at least 5 corners minimum that can play the top position, second position, third position, all earning less than 20 million a year. I think the highest paid was like 19 million, all becoming free agents next year, unrestricted. This is not including restricted free agents.
Sure.
They're all unrestricted free agents that the Vikings could fill in. You got I think it's the Jags #1 corner coming out. You got Jeff Okuda's becoming a free agent. You do have multiple coming out that we have plenty of money to give them. Probably are going to overpay by $1 million or $2 just to keep them off of other teams, or maybe we can keep them with them knowing like you're going to get playtime constantly.
Right.
So next year, I'm
We
feeling
also
good.
have what we have this year, which is like we still have like 17 or 19 mil this year, which would be added on to next year
Oh,
too. So
Jonathan
like
Jones was one of them. Jonathan Jones is also one.
sure. So I mean we got yeah. They were talking about whatever the lack of draft picks we have last year, we'll be able to supplement that with the amount of free agent money we have.
Yep.
So there's always ways to get more draft picks too. I mean, Kwesi likes to trade, so
He does.
he's not quite like Spielman in regards to like let's get a million picks, but
Right.
you know
He's
if we
more of
see
the trade down from Kyle Hamilton to take Lewis Seen and Andrew Booth Jr. That's the
right,
sort of trades he's
right,
into.
yeah, but he's also trade up to get
JJ
McCarthy, trade
McCarthy
up
and
to
Dallas
get
Turner.
Dallas Turner, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, yeah, that first listen, that first draft, not great, right? We all know it, not great, but he's done very well.
Yeah.
He's
Just
done
like a
well
player learns
since
from their mistakes.
right. Yeah, I mean,
Kwesi had to do a little bit of
he got a
learning.
he got a first round wide receiver that hit. Like he's done a lot better since that first
Yeah.
one. And
Yeah. Yep. I think he was probably taken advantage of by other veteran GMs. In his first one, I think he learned a little
right,
bit, learned who to trust, learned what to do.
right.
Just a little, yeah, a little rough, and then
And
redeemed it a bit.
on paper, it was a good idea. It just neither of the picks they got worked out.
Yeah,
So
right, and that's at the
um,
time it was the least amount of value ever earned for that big of a jump down in the
right,
first round.
yeah,
So it's like he just needed some learning to do.
right.
He got learning
So
to do today.
right,
But yeah, like we've talked about, Dwight McGlothern, um, he's got that chance. So he'll get his play time. For now, he's going to be that guy. If they sign Gilmore, if they bring other people in, we'll see. But for now, at least he looked promising. Disappointed about a couple of the guys because like Mikai looked like he was going to be doing really well. I was excited to
yeah.
see what Shaq
He had
Griffin
a
was going to do.
yeah. Mekhi Blackman last year was the highest graded rookie corner, I
Yeah,
believe. So just the promising nature of things this season, the promising nature of Mekhi Blackman possibly doing well, the promising nature of Ty Chandler getting more. Nothing happened to Ty Chandler. Knock on wood. Um, all these like I don't know, the
yeah.
promising things. Promising JJ McCarthy debut, rip. And
Yep.
then
Rip that
yeah,
meniscus.
so yeah.
Well,
Next guy we got is Gabe Murphy.
yep.
I didn't see much from him, but he was rated, the highest rated undrafted free agent, much like Ivan Pace was last year, and we got him, signed to a camp deal.
Which is very consistent with the Vikings even before Quasi.
Right. So they're willing to, and I think he was the highest paid guy too, highest paid undrafted contract too. So um, yeah, I mean, he could just make it off pure like talent and like where he could find a position going forward. I think that like D end slash outside linebacker is a little like packed right now, but it's also one where like you put him on practice squad, some team might pick him up.
Special
So
teams is open.
right, yeah. So I didn't see much from him in regards like this. Maybe my eyes were on other players, but I think just someone they obviously highly wanted um, after the draft could easily find a spot.
Flores
So
loves moving players around. Just ask Josh Metellus. I'm
right,
sure. I'm sure if defensive end feels full, they'll put him at outside linebacker. If that feels full, they'll see how he feels at middle. If that feels full, they'll see how he feels at nickel or like
right,
box safety. They'll
sure,
they'll find stuff. They'll find
right,
room. And Flores is gonna make sure he's not gonna bring a guy in like that and not let him succeed. So I
right,
think just like we talked about with Dallas Turner finding spots, just these guys that are showing potential, especially if they continue to show consistency throughout these preseason games, early season practice against the live practices against the Browns, which I heard had not gone really well, but that's okay. Um, I
there's another
They'll
guy.
find
I mean,
spots.
there's another guy last year, Andre Carter the second. He's kind of in that same boat, right? Like he's very talented D end or DN slash outside linebacker for Army or Navy or something like that.
Yeah,
Air Force, I don't know, one of the Army schools, and and he's kind of plays that same position. So like they like their young kind of D end outside linebackers, so and they'll hopefully find room for him. So
yeah.
um,
Well, speaking of military schools, the last guy we wanted to talk about, Bo Richter.
yes,
Uh,
he had what a game from this guy.
See, and I was that, but we were at to a point where I hadn't been. I had stopped watching for a little bit, and you had texted me about him. Where you were like, "What's up with this Bo Richter?"
Yeah, I was like, this dude's he ended up getting 2 sacks,
Yep.
2 tackles for loss, and 6 tackles, I think, something like that. So
And I can't remember what I said. It was something like he has a funny looking body, but
yeah,
he's very
shorter arms. And then I looked, and then after the success of his, that preseason game, someone put out the like combine analysis or draft analysis of him, and basically his speed and strengths were all in the like 95 plus percentile, but his body composition was like in the 67%, like the kind of average percentile. And I was like, oh, okay, so he has elite strength and elite speed. His just body looks weird.
so.
So
I just looked up the texts. You
sure.
said Bo Richter though. And I said, Richter's a cool player because he is a cool player to me because he's non-prototypical. He has stubby little arms, but he's very smart. And you said, why? Because he's white, you racist. And I said,
That
well,
checks.
I said, most edge guys have to be long, but he's built like a middle linebacker. But his brain and his sneaky, shifty, scrappy athleticism helps him win battles. And then you said that he has
Deceiving
deceiving
speed.
speed and
Yeah.
Quasi excels in the UDFA market.
Yeah.
So, and then I marked down that he was also good with those when he was with the Browns. Then we continued talking, but that was our discussion about Bo Richter, and I think that's all right on the money. Like
Right.
he's got a funny looking body for his position, but
Right.
that shifty, scrappy coach's son, first one in, first one out attitude,
Sure.
um, definitely kicks in and makes him kind of like Adam Thielen,
Right.
where
Good comparison. Right.
where a lot of players say they underestimated him, and so the next time they lined up against him, they thought that they were going to change things, but it still didn't work. I think he's similar. They go up, they underestimate him for who knows why,
Right.
and then he sneaks by him with his sneaky speed, and
Right.
so the next time they go up, they're like, "That's not going to happen again," and it happens again, and people are like, "All right, I'm not giving this guy a cushion because I'm not going to beat this. I'm not going to let this guy beat me on speed," and then he keeps beating him. So
Right.
I think Richter was a nice surprise because like while I thought he had the talent to do what he did, I definitely didn't think he would do what he did that quickly.
Sure. Yeah, and granted, it's against third and fourth strings, but like at this point, you are third and fourth string. So
Uh
like
huh.
if you can beat equal talent level, it can help you move up, and now you got more competition, and hopefully iron sharpens iron. So
Right. Well, that's the exact thing. Is like if you excel to that point against third string, then they got to see will you do that against second, and if you
right,
fall off just a little bit, but you're still like now instead of 2 sacks still gets a sack. Well, now we got to see what you do against starters because clearly you're getting put up against people that are
right.
below
And
your
I think
talent.
that same little bit for McCarthy too. Like I mean, he threw the pick to that guy who's probably starting for the Raiders. You know what I
Right.
mean? And then he comes in, and it's like, all right, the talent's a little less. Um, the talent's a little less. I think he hit Jalen Naylor a couple times against those like maybe first, second string guys, and Naylor excelled.
Yep.
But Naylor's right kind of in that range. And then, I mean, you see him with our second string wide receivers, you know, Tristan Jackson's, Trent Sherfield's, and he was cooking. So, yeah. So, I mean, I guess you got to see what it's like against like the different talent
The big
levels too.
boys.
So, right.
That's why practice this week for JJ McCarthy against the Browns would have been so nice
Yeah. Yeah.
because you get live
So,
reps against the ones, but that's not that's not happening.
right.
Um, yeah, so that's kind of our recap of the Vikings, how they've gone. I think just like we mentioned before in our Vikings season preview, this team wasn't destined to be a playoff team. Like if they did really well, I think Vegas had them at a 5.5 or 6.5 wins was their over under, and
Sure.
if they did well, it would have surprised everyone. When we did our like preview, I think we said they're gonna win somewhere between 4 and 6 games or three and
Yeah, yeah.
five games. Or,
I think we said 3 and 6.
yeah,
I think we said 3 and 6, but we also like covered all of that with. I guess we don't really care how much games they win. We just want to see positivity
yeah.
and growth.
Everybody stays
And
healthy.
yeah, God. And yeah, we want to see some positivity and growth, and some just good signs going into next year. So it's pretty rough.
Which
Um,
we pride ourselves on being positive. We have a channel where we talk about um Marvel and nerdy stuff, superheroes, the boys, with the arcane. We talk about those sorts of things.
DC, like
We
just
always try to keep our positivity. We even talked about the positives of Madam Web. Yes, we're honest about the movie, but we talk about the positives in a lot of things because we think if you want to find nothing but negativity, there's 99% of the internet's out there for you. Um, I think if you just want to watch negativity about Vikings, you can listen to 20 different shows about the Vikings, Minnesota sports in general. I mean, it thrives off of negativity, and even if we aren't huge, like a huge thing that everybody listens to, um, I think some people will appreciate that positivity. And we're going to try to stay positive for this season. Every week, we're going to be able to provide you a recap of how we thought the Vikings did, and we'll bring I'll try to remind people about certain college athletes that are coming out that might be able to help us, certain free
Sure.
agents. And even if things go south, we'll remind you about what things can go right. For,
Everyone, with everything that's happening right now, I saw the most recent thing was, and with the number one pick,
yeah,
the Minnesota Vikings select.
I
Most
saw.
people, just Travis Hunter is what everyone has us with. So
Yeah, Travis Hunter would be pretty crazy with JJ. I
yeah,
mean, would Travis Hunter be a corner or wide receiver for us? Is the question.
exactly. Yes,
I think there are better options at wide receiver and corner over him,
sure.
but I get it. Um, he is the name. He is the name sort of name you hear about nowadays, like at this time of year before people start doing true. Let's break it down and see who's the best, because there is a safety for Ohio State that can play all over defensive back that I think people will be talking about.
Sure.
Um, and but we're like I said, we're gonna stay positive. Um, bring it all up for you, and Vikings fans, no worries. we're it might be all bad now, but I saw some people say with Michael Penix doing so well, maybe the Vikings trade for Kirk Cousins. I saw a good
Yeah,
joke.
yeah. So that was funny.
That made me
Yeah.
laugh, but
All the rookie QBs look good. I
yeah,
mean,
Bo Nix, what the hell?
yeah. I mean, I think it's like average. He had like 21 passes for 105 yards. So he had like a lot of attempts, very short attempts, but I mean, he was like 17 for 21 or something like that.
Yep. I mean, if you have
So a lot of
talented wide
short
receivers, that's all
passes,
you need to do.
yeah, which they don't. But I mean, like,
They do
they
when
act
they're
like,
healthy.
yeah, yeah,
Um, but that's the thing is they can build that. They can build around
right,
that.
yeah,
Once Russ is anyway, we're not here to talk about the Broncos. Screw Sean Payton.
right.
Um, but we'll be back with you. Talk more Vikings next time. Um, Anthony Edwards, congrats, gold medal.
Nafisa
And
Collier, congrats, gold medal.
Nafisa Collier, not only congrats, gold medal, but without her in that final game against France, they do not win.
Right.
Um,
Yeah.
so Lynx got a good one. Wolves got a good one. Vikings look like they've got a good one, but now we got to wait till next year to check him
Yeah.
out.
I was talking to people and I said the McCarthy injury is actually a good thing for Darnold because he won't have that pressure on him. You won't have that pressure, not from necessarily like the coaches having to make a decision on like, oh, should we start McCarthy over you, but also the fans. Like now it's like
Now, if he does poorly, they're not going to be like, put in JJ.
exactly.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Well,
just
Vikings fans, pour out your hearts in the comments. Dislike, like, whatever you want to this video. Let us know what you saw from the first preseason game that you liked, maybe what you didn't like. How do you feel about Darnold starting? Do you think they should pick up another quarterback? Do you think they should just put all their focus into getting the defensive back room filled out? What do you think? Until then, we'll see you all next time. We'll bring the itch to you. You all look great today. G- GG?
and and stop.